Hey, Nickie Brown here, no matter where you are and what part of the world you're in. I hope that you're having a good day. So, the Club Shay Shay interview with Monique starts out with him highlighting her accomplishments, titles, and accolades. Um, a lot of times people think this is who you are, but that's not who you are because who you are is deep down in your soul, right? Who you are is not your body, it's the soul that lives within, as the India Arie song says. Um, so if you imagine yourself without a body, right? Um, Floating down a river. So just imagine yourself taking your bodysuit off, right? Who are you? What does your mind think about? What does the brain think about? Are you your brain again, or are you the soul that lives within the body? So um, she's very grateful and humble in that moment, but at the same time proud. And you can't help but be proud, and even to a point, maybe a little bit egotistical, because that's a lot, right? Especially in this society that we live in, to come from Baltimore, Maryland, and as they continue to say on the show, as the fat black girl. And Monique has always joked about her weight and always considered herself fat, although she has lost a lot of weight. At one point, she said she didn't want to lose weight. She was fine with being fat. But I think that once she got with her husband, she was in a happier place. So she wanted to be in a healthier place. And so I know that she works out on a regular basis. And she says, she's admitted, because I've seen other interviews, that she's still fat. However, she's a healthier version of herself, right? So she even jokingly mentioned about um, Shannon Sharpe, being the black boy from South Carolina who nobody wanted to date. Because that generation, that 40s, 50s, and even older, um, dark skin was not necessarily in, if you were lighter, you were better able to blend in or escape um, certain torture, we'll call it. And so, a lot of times when people were younger, based on stories I've heard, they were picked on and teased. Now, my mom always told me about a song, and a lot of people know it in other countries, right? If you're black, get back, right? If you're brown, you can stick around. And if you're light or white, you're all right, right? A lot of people know that. It's not really a song, I guess it's more of a saying. And a lot of people from other cultures, again, know this. Um, and it's just basically saying that darker skin has typically been unacceptable. Now, here in the new age, um, say like starting in say the 90s, when certain uh, entertainers or celebrities became famous, then darker skin was considered to be in. So you'll think about like your Michael Jordans and your Denzel Washingtons and um, celebrities of that caliber, we'll say. They made dark skin become in, right? Although there is a certain race or nationality of people who have always lusted after um, darker skinned men because the rumor is that they have a large extremity, which is not always the case. But um, Although that's not true, they're still lusted after in that way. There's even a saying that, these women that pursue those men are like Queen of Spades, I think it's called, something like that, where they have this preference. So, again, throughout the interview, Monique basically, does what Monique does, and she tells certain jokes about, herself and what she's been through. Um, and Shannon Sharpe asked some really deep questions and some good questions. And so Monique compared him to Barbara Walters. Um, and even Oprah, I think, at one point. Because he was, coming with the questions. But these are questions that people want to know the answer to. Um, so any good interviewer is going to piggyback off of what the person said, maybe even paraphrase what was said, and pull out more answers or more information from the person. um and Some people are willing to open up. Some people are a little rigid at first. I did an interview with somebody and I didn't get a chance to um publish or post the interview because there was a lot of noise in the background. And then we never redid the interview. Um, but it was a pretty good interview, I would say. But again, I didn't have the opportunity to post it because there's just too much background noise. We were in a space, um, and I'm thankful for that space. But again, unfortunately, we weren't able to air the video because of all the background noise. It was too distracting. And although you can hear the audio and you can hear, the questions that I was asking and that were being answered, again, there's too much distraction with the background noise. So that just, you don't want that type of issue in your audio. Um, and for those who know, once upon a time I did major in media arts in college, so it's just a no-no. Anyway, although, my videos aren't necessarily lit the best, they don't necessarily have the best audio or video production quality, but for me, it's more about what I'm saying, and it's more about me building up that confidence to even get on camera to speak, right? So that's a whole nother thing. And of course, over time, things will get better, right? I don't always edit. There are some videos that I have that are edited and some that are not. But anyway, this is not about me. This is about Monique and the interview she had with Shannon Sharpe. I also enjoy Shannon Sharpe's intro music. Um, it can be very inspiring. Um, Although you don't want to consider yourself grinding necessarily, as in working hard, but at the same time you do. So it can have a both negative and positive connotation, but it depends on how you look at it. But if you consider the etymology of the word, it could be a bit problematic, but I'm not going to get into that. But basically, Monique wanted to get some things off her chest, and she did just that. I think she was kind of piggybacking off of the Cat Williams interview. And so I never heard of Club Shay Shay prior to the Cat Williams interview. So it's interesting now that, of course, people are going to see this as an outlet to tell their story. And I love that he provides that platform for those people that might otherwise be considered the underdog, because she was basically considered an outcast in the industry. Of course, she still does her comedy. Of course, she still has her fans that love her. But in the mainstream industry, amongst certain producers, um, because she's considered hard to work with, they don't want to deal with her, because this is all a part of playing the game, right? It's no different than somebody having a friend or a coworker and them saying, "Oh, I don't like that person, so let's, provoke this person or sabotage this person, or because I don't like this person, then you shouldn't like this person either." That I'm the leader and you're the follower type of mentality, which makes absolutely no sense to me because I've never been that person. If you don't like somebody, that has nothing to do with me, and I'm not going to dislike somebody because you don't like them. That makes absolutely no sense to me. But again, some people are followers and they will just go along to get along because they have this gang mentality. You know, I need to be a part of this clique. And in order for me to fit in with the clique, if people don't like this person, then I shouldn't like this person either. And again, not everybody's a leader. Some people are followers, and so they go along with the crowd because they're considered the in crowd because some people feel that they need validation. So, um, that is the gist of the message, like the underlying tone of what one of the things that Monique was saying, if you read between the lines, right? And people probably didn't look at it that way. A lot of people just take exactly what she said and listen to it for face value, but sometimes you have to consider the things that are not being said, right? Um, so another message that I get from it, because I was the same way, when you have a traumatizing childhood, one often wants to be within the entertainment industry because you're seeking love, you're seeking attention, you're seeking validation that perhaps you did not get growing up. Now, that trauma could be that you just didn't get enough hugs from your parents. That trauma could be that one parent was absent. That trauma could be that both parents were mentally and emotionally absent. That trauma could have been physical, could have been financial, could have been, whatever it was. Um, but whatever we go through as children does have an effect on us as adults. And so I know for me, the first time I realized that people gave me attention when I would sing, right? So they would wait for me to come outside, and I would stand, and they would stand around me and say, "Oh, Nickie, sing love, found love on a two-way street, and the double Dutch bus," and I would sing those songs, and then we could play, right? And of course, there were girls in the neighborhood that were jealous of that, and they wanted to try to fight me or pull my hair. Um, and then there were little boys who liked me because of that. And so they wanted to chase me or, hit me and then run. Um, and things of that nature because, they consider me to be a pretty little girl, whatever the case may be. Um, but when you don't get that attention at home, again, a lot of times we seek that attention outside of the home and outside of ourselves. We don't know how to appreciate ourselves. We don't know how to validate ourselves. We don't know how to love ourselves. And so a lot of people are now on a journey to love themselves, to be a better person. So I like when she talked about her husband and the relationship she had with him and how she was when they first got together. They had been friends for a really long time, but this was her first time her being with what she would consider a real man. Right? And some people have never been in a real relationship with especially as women, with a man who does not match your tone or temperament. He does not have an attitude. He's not trying to, belittle you or be condescending or talk down to you as a form of control or to get you to bow down to him or to get you to like him more, um, or to get you to feel like you have to do whatever he wants so that he'll like you or want you or choose you, right? You're not a pick me, as they say nowadays. Um, and he basically softened her, right? Some men will not stick around long enough to soften a woman. They'll just say, "Oh, well, she has an attitude. I'm done," and that's it. And some women can't be softened because they don't realize what they have sometimes. They think you're supposed to yell or be ratchet and ghetto and ignorant, and you have to fight to get what you want or yell to get what you want, um, or to be heard or to be seen or to be validated in some way. And that's just not the reality. And so she basically mentioned that, one day she just took a step back and she was sitting at the head of the table, that strong, um, you know, I'm the head of household type of mentality. And not even intentionally, it was just something that she was used to. And then one day she realized she needed to take a step back because he was the head of household and she wanted to allow him to be that. And so for years we've heard her call him her king, and things of that nature. So, depending on the man and depending on the relationship, for me, that is how it's supposed to go. Right? Not that, and he never mentioned it. A lot of some guys they want to argue about it. Oh, well, I'm this and I'm that, and you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. He never did that to her. And she naturally just fell in place because that's how it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be natural. And if she does not do that, then she's probably not the right woman for you. And men get mad when I say that. Right? Instead of just saying, oh, black women have attitudes. But then sometimes when they get with white women, it's not necessarily any better. Because people are people. I know people who have been very disappointed thinking that by dating another race, it was going to be better. And that's not always the truth. And that this is not me condemning it. Although I do have my preference, just like other people have their preference. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think you should just dismiss a whole entire nationality because of some experiences that you had in the past. That's what I'm saying. Let's continue on. Throughout the interview, Monique said several times that she prayed to the universe. And I watched Tony Gaskett's commentary on the video. And he basically said that as a Christian, he has a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that, right? Whatever she meant by it, that is of no concern to me, right? I'm not here to judge anyone, right? We are not here to judge anyone. If anything, we're here to learn from one another. And we have differences so that we can learn from one another. But I'm sure that some other people will be bothered by that or turned off by that and just not want to watch the interview because of the words she chose to speak. That's her life. She has that right. She can use whatever words she wants to use. Why are we judging that? So to continue on, she talks about how she admired Oprah Winfrey growing up. And I did too, right? Ironically, I did too. And I remember people are talking. Now, she was in Baltimore and I was in New Jersey. And I remember that show, right? And again, it was like, wow, there's a black woman on TV like talking to people, interviewing people, asking them questions. At that time I was a little girl, so I couldn't tell you, I didn't know that she was doing journalism. I didn't really understand what wording or verbiage to use, but I was impressed. I admired her in that moment. And I'm sure that a lot of, young women did at that point, because that was not something that we were used to seeing on TV. And so, ironically, the same woman that she admired, she feels like she was burned by, mistreated. But then she's not the only one who's saying those same things, because a lot of people have said similar things over the years about the same person. And this happens, and I've mentioned this in another video. This happens in other industries. You will have somebody who mistreats you, and they will lie about it, and they will make it seem like it's you. Like you were wrong. You were the bad person. It's because of you and your personality. And a lot of times it's because you don't want to bow down to that person, or you don't want to allow them to mistreat you. So you speak up about it. And people don't like it when you speak up about them mistreating you. They want you to allow it. Some people, again, feel like you should bow down to them. Some people think they're better than other people. And that is unfortunate, because I don't think that you should be mistreating people or have a lack of compassion for other people. And then again, she mentioned that Oprah says she experienced some of the same things. And I think that we have a tendency to forget how we felt when it initially happened to us. And then at a certain point, people get what they call a thick skin, and they don't care anymore. So they continue to do it to other people, although they know it may be wrong, or they know that they didn't like it when it happened to them. They say that it's part of the game. And then they'll accuse you of having a big ego, right? Or they'll tell you that you need to humble yourself, because again, you don't sit back and allow them to mistreat you or mishandle you. Or they feel that because they have a certain status or title, that again, you should be bowing down to them. You should just be lucky that they gave you this opportunity. You should just be thankful that they gave you whatever they gave you, or did whatever they did for you. That is really mental and emotional abuse, whether people choose to admit it or not. When you use that word abuse, people get all upset about it. I've had people cry or just get angry because they don't like to be accused of being an abuser. But it could be verbal abuse and mental emotional abuse. It is what it is. And as Iyanla would say, let's just call a thing a thing. Because people will mistreat you. And then they'll say, oh, here's a slice of bread, or here's a pie. And you're just supposed to be thankful and grateful that they gave you that pie, even after they've abused you. And you're not supposed to say anything about it. Because if you say something about it, you're the problem. Now, there are some people who take what Monique said with a grain of salt. There are some people who don't believe her. There are some people who, will take the side of the other party and condemn her and criticize her and blame her and try to shame her. But like she said, if somebody owes you $25 or $40, you will get upset about it if they don't give it back to you. So now we're talking about millions of dollars. And she doesn't want to get a lawyer. She just wants the people in that particular situation to do the right thing, to be righteous and apologize. And she has the support of her husband. And again, I love their relationship. I think it's great. Now, Monique also mentioned being a person who stands for what's right. And when you're a person who stands for what's right, a lot of times people don't like you. A lot of people are used to manipulating and being deceptive in order to get what they want. They feel like they have to kick, scream, and yell in order to get what they want, or that means you're weak. And I know I've mentioned this before in other videos. Um, but as Monique, I am always on the side of what's right and what's fair, right? And a lot of people lie to get their way to the top or to make you look bad because they don't want to be accountable and responsible for their ways, thoughts, and actions because they know they're wrong, right? The last few jobs that I've had, I've experienced that so much, it's comical at this point. Like, it is really unfortunate that people are really like that. And when you don't do what they want you to do, they get mad. And so the things that she's saying are not far-fetched because I've experienced them on a smaller scale. Other people have experienced these things on a smaller scale. Just because you're not a celebrity does not mean that these things don't happen and these things don't exist. They just happen on your level, right? And this is not to say that somebody's better than or less than, because I don't really believe in that. Just because somebody has more money or more material things, to me, does not mean that they're a better person. Like Monique said, and I've been saying this for years, what makes someone a good person is their character and their integrity. Right? I remember having a conversation with some guys that I worked with, and they said, "Oh, what do you want in a man?" And I said, "Good character." And they said, "And some money." And I said, I didn't say anything about money. I said character. They said again, "And money." No, money is just a bonus. But money, if you don't have good character and integrity and respect, loyalty, faithfulness, I could care less about. Because in my mind, we can get money together. And some people don't think like that. Some people feel like the man should be the breadwinner. And so, whatever that looks like for each individual, because every couple is going to be different. So, whatever people have to bring to the table is what they bring to the table. Right? I would much rather have someone with dignity and respect. I know that I don't necessarily believe in all the principles of Islam, but for the most part, the righteous Muslim men know how to treat women, right? With respect. And again, it's a matter of not matching her tone or temperament. Women can be emotional, right? I, there are guys who will say that I'm more masculine than feminine because I'm not just the type to just break down and cry and, you know, and be overly emotional. Although I can be sensitive, right? But if I get in those moments, I just say what I need to say. But then some people will say, "Oh, well, you're just being sensitive," as a way to gaslight you, right? So a woman has to be careful because there's a thin line when somebody's trying to manipulate you to get you to do what they want, right? When they can't get you to do what they want. So you just have to be mindful. And those lines can be blurred. And again, if you're responding to something, the reaction may be that, "Oh, you're this and you're that," because that's their first instinct, is to name call or insult. And again, that doesn't matter what class you're considered to be in. This could be, uh, lower class, upper class, middle class. This is one of the things that people do when they're being manipulative and deceptive. And so again, what Monique is saying is not far-fetched. All these things are possible because these are the tactics that people employ, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. She also talked about how people will say, "Oh, that's not your place to correct somebody." But I think that it is. And I think that we need to tell people the truth. It's no different than if you let your friend go outside looking crazy with hair a mess or clothes a mess or dirty or stinky. If you see somebody even say cheating and you know that it's wrong, you're supposed to call that person out on on it. In my mind, If you call yourself my friend and I do something and you don't call me out on it, you're not my friend. And I will cease to be around you. Right? It's and you don't even have to say it mean or nasty, but you should say it. Like, oh man, that's not right. Or sis, whatever. Girl, you know you need to not do that. Also, Monique pretty much validated, not that she needed to, what Cat Williams said. We have not heard anyone deny anything that Cat Williams said. Then people have gotten angry, but people say, "Oh, I wonder if he was telling the truth." Nobody's denied it. Even Ice Cube, you know, the only thing he said that was a little different was that the character of Money Mike was pretty much already written and Cat Williams made it his own. But he's not denying that Cat Williams basically wrote, you know, he ad libbed a lot of the things that the character said. He made it his own. You know, there are a lot of things that she said, and I know people are focused on the celebrity pieces of it. When she talked about Oprah and Lee Daniels and Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, um, Cedric, you know, and some of the other ones that she maybe felt like she was deceived by. Not some more, you know, some more is her friend. And she was appreciative of some more saying, you know, let's do what's right for the show. Basically, in a nutshell, is what she was saying. Um, you know, putting her ego aside because it's not about that. And that's what one of the things that we don't understand. A lot of times people will say, "Oh, I don't want to give you a compliment because I think you'll have a big head." But is it that I'm going to have a big head, or is it that you're going to feel have a big head? Or is it that you're going to feel bad about yourself? If you're going to feel that you're less than because you feel like you can't live up to this certain standard that someone else has. You don't have to be like anyone else. You only have to be like yourself. Everyone's good at something different, right? And a lot of times when people see somebody doing something, let's say they see somebody working hard or washing their dishes better or whatever it is, most of the time it's very insignificant and trivial. But people get jealous about that. Like, oh, you're going to make me live up to this certain expectation, or other people are going to think that I'm not good enough. And people make it about themselves when it's really not about themselves. If somebody is a workaholic and they want to, you know, grind all day and you choose to lay in bed, why does that make you feel bad when you're making the choice to do what you want to do? Or if you're on a job and you don't want to work as hard, then just don't. But why get mad or criticize somebody else for what they're doing? It doesn't make sense. If somebody does not want to accept less than for themselves, they don't have to. But if you're okay with something simpler or something smaller, that is okay too. Live the life that you want to live and not compare yourself to someone else. That is not what we're here for. We are here to learn from one another, and we have differences for a reason. I've said this several times. But yet and still, people don't understand it. They don't get it. But they won't put some themselves in someone else's shoes when it comes to something that they don't want to do or don't want to have to experience. Like, say, for example, poverty or homelessness. But it's all about compassion, empathy, um, self love. And a lot of times people, they want you to do things that they're not even willing to do. Like, say, an employer who says, oh, we're all about integrity, and then they do something to backstab. So the employee is supposed to have integrity when they're dealing with your work processes or your customers or clients, but you're not supposed to have any for the employee. That's not right. That's not right at all. And then again, to protect yourself, you'll go and lie. Doesn't make sense. Okay. She said something else that was very interesting. People that look like us should just be grateful that we were invited to the party. Again, that's that hierarchy that can exist, um, and people who feel that they're better than you, or they're in a more sophisticated class, and that you're beneath them. And again, they have no compassion or empathy for you because you're just a peasant who is beneath them. Even if you're wealthy, just like they are, but you may not have as much wealth. So again, it's that air of you're beneath me. You should just be lucky that I invited you to my party. That's that mean girls attitude or the mean guy attitude. Because it's mean. Because we're human beings at the end of the day. And there's a certain, um, our ancestors didn't deal with this, right? And people say, oh, well, it's not ancient times. But there was a time when these things did not exist, right? We lived off the land. We wore loincloth. The hips were seen as adequate enough to accommodate a child, and the breasts were seen as a way to feed our babies. There wasn't this lusting thing. It wasn't until there was this comparison that their behinds are bigger. And Joy DeGruy pointed that out in her post-traumatic slavery syndrome book. Post-traumatic slavery disorder? No, I have the book. Post-traumatic slavery. The book she wrote. I don't know what the D stands for. It's not post-traumatic slavery. There's post-traumatic stress syndrome, and there's post-traumatic I think it's disorder. Anyway, Joy DeGruy, Degruy. She pointed that out in her book. And one of the most popular examples was Sarah Bartman, right? They put her on display at a zoo, and they allowed men to fondle her and have sex with her. And she ended up dying from a venereal disease because so many different men entered her. But, basically saying that because she had a bigger butt than in comparison to the women in their nation, that meant she was promiscuous and she wanted it. And so this began to be associated with a certain nationality of people, even though the idea that their penises were bigger. And so this created jealousy, right? So I need to make these people bow down to me. And so how can I become better? And I can use money and I can use weapons to make myself feel superior to someone that I feel inferior with. And culturally, we are, the most mimicked. Um, but, people don't like to think of it that way. People always say, oh, we're all the same and we're all human and da 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 da. But, a lot of the people who say that, they're not willing to let go of their privilege or even acknowledge the fact that they are privileged in, certain situations and have been for centuries. And that, we're not, allowed to have certain jobs or certain titles. Although it's not about a title, but it is about being able to be, to provide. You know, the median income in certain in neighborhoods is higher, and again, people are allowed to make more money on average in certain nationalities than they are in others. And the research is out there, so this is not something that I'm making up. Um, and I love everybody, right? And so this is not about, anything other than pointing out the truth. And again, I know that people don't like to hear the truth. It makes them feel uncomfortable. But it is what it is. And again, the research is out there. Although we've all been um, lied to, miseducated. Um, but I'm not even going to get into all of that. That's a whole nother topic. So back to Monique and what she was saying on Club Shay Shay. So one of the other things that she pointed out is that people want to be free. They don't want to live in fear. They don't want to be intimidated. And a lot of times people feel like they're not allowed to be free. They're not allowed to be themselves. They have to code switch in order to even fit in or to make a certain amount of money. Or they have to, become snobs in order to fit into their society or this society or that society. And I've watched people do it. I've watched someone that I worked with at a restaurant, and I haven't seen her, but she, earned a certain degree, and now she thinks she's better than people. And I think that that's unfortunate. And it's funny because when she got into this certain industry, when she first started school, she said she was told by a certain class of people, "Oh, you're in our industry. You've infiltrated our industry." And so now that she's infiltrated, now she's become a part of that society, and her mentality has become the same thing that she was made to feel bad about initially. And that's why people say don't forget where you came from. Because no one person is better than, I don't care how much money somebody has, what kind of materials they have. We all go into the same ground. You may have more people at your funeral because more people know you. You may have more people watch it on TV because you were famous. But we still all go into the same ground. No matter how fancy the box is, it's still just a box. And the worms and the other bugs are still going to eat through the box, and you're still going to be left, with just a skeleton once your flesh disintegrates. You can't take any of those material possessions with you. And we all bleed the same color. I used to say when I was younger, if somebody busts you in the head, you're going to bleed the same color blood. And again, you're going in the same ground as everybody else. Or crematory, whichever you prefer. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust shall you return. Anyway, my battery's going dead. And I would charge it, but sometimes the microphone doesn't work when I plug the charger up. So I'm going to end this here. But I did want to touch on some of the things that she talked about from a moral perspective. Going along with values and sensibilities, and not necessarily about, just focusing on the celebrity aspect of it. It was more for me about this woman really has integrity. And I do too. And I appreciate that. Although a large portion of society does not. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, I love y'all. Later.